I want to create the ultimate content creation machine. I want to create a little automation, a little AI agent that I give it a single topic or a single URL. And from just the topic or the URL, it goes and generates a ton of content for me. And honestly, just makes my life so much simpler. From the one topic I give it, I want it to go off and generate a tweet, a Threads post, a LinkedIn post, a blog post, a short form video script, and an audio podcast, all from that one topic and that one input. Literally copy and paste one little thing over and it goes and creates all of that content for me. And I think I can do it. In order to accomplish this, I'm gonna use MindStudio and build an agent that does everything I just mentioned. So to do this, let's jump into MindStudio and we will build a new agent. We start with a very simple workflow here, and I'm just gonna work through and build each element one at a time. So we need to start off this workflow by taking a user input. The user input could either be a URL or a topic that we want content created about. If it's a URL, I want it to go and look at that URL and get the information about it and then create content around it. If it's just a topic, I want it to go research that topic and then create content around it. So I want it to have some logic so it can decipher whether it needs to go read a URL or whether it needs to go do some research. But to start, we need an input. So I'll go ahead and click this plus here. We'll create a user input. Over on the left, I'll click this plus for the new user input. Then I'll create a new input and we'll make this a short text and we'll call the variable user topic. For labeled text, we'll put topic or URL, letting them know they can either plug in a topic or a URL. And then for validation, I'm going to leave it blank because I want them to be able to put in a URL or a topic, and I don't want it to force them to put in a very specific style that it needs to validate. All right, so now that we've got our user input, let me just sort of rearrange some stuff. We need two things to happen off of this user input. It needs to branch off in two directions. One direction if it's fed a URL, one direction if it is just fed a topic. So we'll create a new block for in case it's just fed a topic, and we'll want it to go research that topic. So I'm going to select generate text, and we'll create a new block here that is not yet connected. And then under model settings, since I do want this to go do research, I'm going to actually pick perplexity as my model, and we'll use this sonar model here. And then for our prompt, I'll say, give me as much details and information about the following topic as possible. Be thorough and give me all the details that general consumers and everyday people would care most about. And then I'll put topic, and then we'll give it our variable that we just created. Just do the two little like curly brackets there. And then the variable we created was user topic. So now it's going to feed this prompt to Perplexity to have Perplexity go do the research for us. And then for the output behavior, I don't need it to give me this research back. We're going to pass this research on to the next step a little bit later. So for output behavior, I'm going to change it to save to variable, and I'll call this variable topic research. All right. So now we have what it's going to do if just a topic is entered without a URL. Now, what if there is a URL entered? Well, I want it to do something else. So I'm going to create a new block for that. But this time I'm going to have it scrape the URL. So I'll select scrape URL. For the actual URL, I'm going to enter the variable user topic. So if they plugged in a URL here, it will pull that URL and scrape it. And once again, this is going to be an output variable. And for this one, I'm actually going to use the same variable that I did here. We'll call it topic research. So I'll copy this variable, and under scrape URL, the output variable will also be topic research. Cool. So now I have two options. The option if they just enter a topic and the option if they enter a URL. So how does it know which one of these to use? Well, this is where we add a new block here. We'll go to all blocks and we'll use a logic block, and we'll let AI decide which one it's going to actually go and use. So under the logic block, our context is look at user topic and decide if it's a URL or just plain text. Condition 1, user topic is plain text and not a URL. Condition 2, user topic is a URL and not plain text. All right, so under condition 1, if it's plain text, we'll select the destination of generate text. Condition 2, if it's a URL, we'll select the destination of scrape the URL. So now it will decide whether this was plain text or a URL and then feed it to the proper next step based on what it decided it was. Now, just to test if my logic is working right now, let's go ahead and create a new block here. We'll display content, and both of these are going to feed back into display content here. And our variable that we're creating in both of these is topic research. So let's just have this display topic research, and we should be able to tell if it's working based on what it gives us back. So let's go ahead and preview this. When we open our AI agent here, topic or URL, let's just give it the URL quantum computing and click next. It's now running in the background, and hopefully it figured out that this was not a URL. Okay, so it gave us these details. Quantum computing is an advanced type of computing that uses the laws of quantum mechanics, etc., etc. Gave us a detailed breakdown of quantum computing here. Cool. So that seemed to work to understand that it was a topic. Now let's try feeding it an article. Here's a recent article on The Verge. Let's go ahead and grab the URL from this article, and let's paste the URL in here now and see if it actually scrapes the URL and properly knows what to do with this information. So let's click next, and we can see that it actually scraped the whole homepage, including all of the menus and everything. But here's the actual article itself, which is what we need. So it seems to be properly working. You give it a topic, it goes and uses Perplexity to research that topic. You give it a URL, and it goes and scrapes all of the information on that URL. Perfect. We're in good shape. Let's go back to editing our agent here. I'm going to delete our content display because I just put that there as a sort of test to make sure that our little splitter here was working. So now I wanted to take whatever content it found, either the content it researched or the content that it scraped from the website, and turn it into all of those other pieces of content that we talked about earlier. I want a blog post, a podcast, a LinkedIn post, a tweet, a Threads post, and even a short audio podcast. And we can do all of that. So now we need to have it create a blog post off of this information. So I will create a new block. We will generate text with that new block, and both of these are going to feed back towards this new block. And I wanted to generate the blog post first because that's going to be the longest piece of content, and sort of every subsequent piece of content is going to be a smaller piece of content that will have it essentially pull from the blog that it wrote. What we'll do with this new generate text here is we'll give it a prompt. So I'm giving it this prompt: create a well-written blog post that explains to non-techie people the information below. Ignore any branding, menu items, or things like that from the copied and pasted article, and just focus on the meat of the article. The blog post should open with a hook about why people should be interested in the topic. It should then explain the topic in an easy to understand way. It should also share the implications for the average person of this information. And finally, if there's any actionable things people can do with this information, it should break it down. Finish it off with a conclusion. Make sure the article is formatted nicely with proper grammar, spelling, and line breaks. The article should also leverage subheadings to help break up the article. Never use the em dash or emojis in your writing. And then I will put, here's the topic to write the blog post about. And then I will put in quotation marks our topic research that we got in our last step here. And I will also close off the quotation marks so it knows that is what it's creating a blog post about. For output behavior, once again, I'm saving it to a variable. I don't need it displayed to me just yet. We'll do that step in a couple minutes here. And for the variable name, we'll call this one blog post. For the model, I would like to use GPT-5, the latest one out of OpenAI, and we'll have it run with that model here. And I'm going to bump up my max response size here so it's not super limited with how long the blog post can be. And then reasoning effort, we'll just go ahead and leave that on medium. So this is going to generate a blog post with our variable blog post here. Now I want it to create a short form video script that I can post on YouTube Shorts and TikTok and Instagram Reels and things like that. So we'll create a new block. We'll generate text with it. We'll connect this one as the next step in our chain here. And we'll actually pull the information from the blog post this time because it'll be a little bit better cleaned up and formatted and remove some of the extra junk like the menu items and things like that. So for the prompt, I'll say, take the following blog post and create a 60-second script for a short form video. Just give me the exact script that I should read feed and make sure that it provides the most interesting and valuable information for the viewer. Open it with a hook that gets people excited to watch more. And then here I'll put the blog post, and then in quotations, we'll call on our variable, which is in this case, blog post. Close the quotes off, output behavior. We're going to save it to a variable. And this time we'll call this shorts script. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and use GPT-5, and now we'll have a blog post written, we'll have our short script written, and then we'll have it write 3 social media posts. I actually don't think it's going to need a separate block for all 3, so I'm just going to create one block to write a tweet, a Threads post, and a LinkedIn post. So we'll create a new block here, generate text once again, connect it so this is the next thing that happens in line with our workflow here, fix my OCD so that cleans up there, and then let's go ahead and tell it to create 3 social media posts for the following content. Write a post for X/Twitter, a post for Threads, and a post for LinkedIn. Each post should be specifically tailored and written to perform the best on each specific platform. Keep it within the character limits of each platform and make sure it's intriguing, interesting, and likely to generate comments. Here's the content to write the 3 social media posts about. And then I'll go ahead and put our blog post here again, and then I'll close it off in quotation marks so it knows that it's pulling that. So now what we've done is we had it generate a blog post, have it generate a shorts script, have it generate 3 social media posts for Twitter, Threads, and LinkedIn, ideally dialing them in so that they will work best for each respective platform. And then the final thing that I want to have it generate is a little audio podcast about this. Maybe I'll create a little RSS feed and people can go and listen to the content that I create with this flow over on Spotify or iTunes or something. So let's go ahead and add one more block. This time I'm going to view all blocks. I'm going to do a quick search for podcast, and we can see that there is an option to generate a podcast with 2 hosts. So we'll go ahead and select that option. We'll flow right into that option here. And then for the topic, I'm literally just going to give it all of this stuff. Create a podcast about the following content. And I'm literally going to have it pull in the blog post. Go ahead and do it like this. I'll pull in script, and then let's pull in our social media posts, which, by the way, I forgot a step here on our social media post. Once again, I want to save it as a variable, and we'll call this social posts, and we'll set this to GPT-5 also. We'll go ahead and put social media posts, and then pull that variable in as well, social posts. So now it's pulling all this information in. It's kind of duplicate information, but at least it's like really solidifying what we want the podcast to be about. I'm going to wrap each of these in quotes real quick. And then, yeah, let's make the podcast roughly 10 minutes. And then I'll create a variable called podcast URL right here so that I can pull our podcast URL in on the final page. So now we've got our blog post, our script, our 3 social media posts, and an audio podcast all generating. And I want it to give it all to me on a page that's easy to read. So we'll go ahead and create a new block. We'll do display content. This is going to be the final page where it just shows everything to us. Finally, our output behavior is going to be display to user. And this uses markdown language, which is really easy. For the most part, I'm just going to use hashtags to sort of bold and set headings. So I'll put one hashtag for our sort of title that says content plan. I'll give it a couple spaces, and then I'll put 2 hashtags, and we'll put blog post. And then right here, we'll pull in our blog post. So I'll pull in that variable that we created that says blog post. And now the blog post will show up right before the blog post subheading. And then we'll pull in our short script. So I'll put short script. Then below it, we'll pull in that short script variable. And then we want our social media posts. So we'll go social media posts, pull in our variable. And then finally, I want to pull in our podcast. So we'll go ahead and put it podcast here. And then we'll pull in our podcast URL variable here. And you know what? I think I want an image to go along with all of this. So when I do post my blog post, I've got a featured image. When I post on social media, I can also post it with an image. So let's actually generate an image in here just for fun as well. Let's go ahead and add a new block, and we'll select generate image for our block here. And I'll just say generate an image that accurately represents this blog post. And then I'll pull in the blog post. and let's just let it generate an image based on the whole damn blog post. We'll go ahead and use GPT image 1 for our size. I want it to be a sort of wider size here. And then the output variable, we'll just call it featured image. All right, so now it will generate an image inside of this workflow as well. So now when we go to display content, under our content plan, let's go ahead and toss in our image. Put our featured image right there like that. Now let's go ahead and publish this and see if it works. We'll test it with both an article and a topic. So we'll click publish. Let's open our AI agent here. And to start, let's give it a topic. How about the topic of mixture of experts in AI? That's a topic we're hearing a lot about. Let's see what content it generates using that. I'll click next, and we'll let MindStudio's little agent that we just created run here, and let's see what it gives us for the output. And here's what it generated on the first try. We could see it didn't quite use my markdown, so I'll need to figure that out here in a second. But it created this image, why AI is getting faster and smarter, the simple idea behind mixture of experts. And I mean, it's a pretty decent image for it, honestly. We've got our blog post here, why AI is getting faster and smarter, the simple idea behind mixture of experts. And we've got our whole blog post written up here. We have where our short script is supposed to go, but it didn't publish it, so I must have made a mistake. We'll double check on that in a second. We've got a social media post for X/Twitter, a post for Threads, and a post for LinkedIn that even used bullet points. And then we've got the podcast that it created. And if I click on this,
today we're diving into something that's been quietly revolutionizing the AI world and probably affecting apps you use every day without you even realizing it.
That's right. We're talking about why AI is getting faster and smarter.
I mean, that works. It's just the page that I created didn't quite design up the way I wanted to, and we're missing our short script. So let's go do some troubleshooting real quick here. Let's jump back to our workflow. So it looks like I can fix a few of these variables on our display content by using our display audio player and displaying our images here. So let's go ahead and select this little code for display image. We'll copy that. And then under our configuration, we have our featured image here, but I need to use this little code to make sure that it pulls in the featured image. So we'll go ahead and just replace the image variable right in here with our featured image. And then for alt text, I'll just put featured image. I think it didn't format properly because I didn't put spacing properly. So let's go ahead and do this. And then for our podcast URL, let me go back to our quick help, and we've got our display audio player. So let's go ahead and copy this code, come back to our configuration, and for our podcast, we'll go ahead and put this there and pull that in like so. We'll just replace this. So now it should pull in our podcast audio. Now let's try this one more time. Hopefully the formatting's a little more dialed in. We'll click publish, open AI agent, and this time let's plug in a URL, see if it works just as well for a URL. I'm going to head to Future Tools, AI News, and we'll just grab some recent piece of news here. Anthropic's Claude Sonnet boosts API context window. We'll just grab this URL here and then plug it into our topic or URL. I don't need this extra UTM detail, so we'll just go ahead and leave it with this article and click next and let it run its system again. Awesome. And with a few tweaks in my URL that I just inputted, I got everything I needed. We've got our title here. We've got our featured image, why a million token memory matters for everyday AI use, our written blog post with bullets, with subheadlines, everything we asked for. Great blog post here about why a million token memory matters. We scroll down here. We can see we've got our short form script. Your AI can now remember a million tokens, about 2,000 to 3,000 pages in one go. Think an entire code base, contract bundle, or semester of notes all at once without losing the thread. Seems like a pretty decent script for a short form video. Then we have our social media posts. So we've got our Twitter post here. Imagine an AI with a filing cabinet memory. Claude Sonnet 4 now has a million token context. I don't like that it added hashtags, but I can always instruct it not to in the future. We've got our Threads post right here. And then we've got our LinkedIn post right here. And then just like we asked it to, it generated a podcast for us about this topic.
Today we're diving into what might be the biggest AI memory upgrade of the year, Claude Sonnet 4's new million token context window.
Million token context.
Pretty cool. It's even embedded on our page here. I'll jump back to our workflow, and I'm going to call this one Content Jarvis. Creates every type of content from just a URL or topic idea. And now I can run this whenever I want. If I come across an article that I want to make some content around, I can plug in the URL to the article. if I don't have an article, but just an idea for a topic, you know, flying cars, for instance, I just plug in that topic into the box and it will make me all of the content I can imagine around what I just input. And I built this whole thing in like 20 minutes or something. It's a super cool workflow builder. I've been finding more and more use cases. It automates so much for me. And yeah, really excited about what MindStudio can do and excited to use this content Jarvis even more. But that's what I got for you today. Hopefully you found this video helpful and informative, and now you have some new ideas on how to use tools like MindStudio. And I really appreciate you hanging out, learning with me, nerding out with me. It's always fun. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stuff like this. Really appreciate you. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.